InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Jill Motew. Welcome, Jill.
Thanks for having me.
Let me tell you a little bit about Jill. Jill is the president and founder of Zima's Madhouse Foods. Jill's company manufactures 5 gluten-free ancient grain baking mixes. Jill has 5 children, I assume 1 husband.
Yes.
4 of whom have ADHD, and they're all your, or 4 of your children are all 5 athletic, or 4 of them?
All 5.
All 5 are athletic. Jill feeds her children fresh, wholesome foods that are free of preservatives, additives, dyes, and refined sugars. Before I ask you these other questions I have, is it hard to feed your children fresh, natural foods that don't have sugars, preservatives, additives, dyes, etc.?
It's hard to shop that way, yes. It can be overwhelming. You need to educate about reading the labels. It is hard. But I've been doing it for so long that for me it's not hard anymore, but it can be very challenging.
And do other mothers come to you for advice?
All the time. I get stopped on the street. I get stopped in the grocery stores. I get stopped at the gym, everywhere. How do you do it? How do you do it?
And what do you say?
You have to make that commitment. You have to sit, if your kids are old enough to understand their diet and how they're growing and their athleticism, they have to start to learn and understand about healthy foods and how this body of ours, this machine, works and functions at its best. And so for little kids, I think it's much harder because they want what everybody else wants. But as the kids grow up and they're preteens and especially teenagers, I think you have to sit them down and explain to them, our family's going to make this commitment. We want to eat a cleaner, more wholesome diet, and it's going to take all of us together to support each other because it's not easy.
Well, and I often find women who want to follow natural foods diet, but the husbands won't do it. Where does your husband fit into this?
Well, my husband is actually very athletic. He's a biker, he weight trains, and he also plays ice hockey. Also, we're getting older, so it's even more important to eat the right foods so that our body can heal quicker on the backside. It's hard for him, very hard. He loves pizza, he loves pasta, he loves all the carb stuff. So for me to throw a bunch of greens at him and fresh fruits, and there's other choices there, it's very difficult for him too. But he tries his best.
Okay, now let's start talking about the Zima's Madhouse Foods. Why did you call your company Zima's Madhouse Foods?
This is funny. Everybody says when they meet me for the first time, either at an expo or a convention, "Are you Zima?" We've been talking online and on Facebook and Twitter, "Are you Zima?" And I said, "No, I'm not Zima." Zima comes from my 5 kids' first initials of each of their names. Madhouse is, well...
Do you want to give your kids a plug?
Oh, okay. Hi to, let's see, we've got Zev, Emmy, Max, Asher, and Simon.
Okay.
And that's not in like any birth order. It's just the way the name sounded the best off the tongue. So Madhouse is obviously our house 24/7. It's just crazy. Everybody has an opinion about food and where it's coming from and what they want. And then also, it's just a madhouse shopping. Everyone's shopping at different grocery stores these days. You don't go to your one local grocery store anymore. You hit probably 3. There are so many choices out there of gluten-free, healthy foods that it's overwhelming, and it's crazy getting down the aisles.
What makes the Zima's Madhouse Foods different from other food companies?
Well, Zima's Madhouse Foods is a manufacturer of 5 unique ancient grain baking mixes. And what makes us so uniquely different is that our base flour is full of ancient grain, gluten-free flour blends.
Okay, I got to ask, what are the 5 grains?
Well, it's not so much the 5 grains, it's more 5 palettes, 5 flavor palettes. But it's the ancient grains we use are teff, which is an Ethiopian grain.
Sure.
That's now grown in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
We've got sorghum, which is very similar to whole wheat.
Mm-hmm.
We've got amaranth,
Mm-hmm.
quinoa,
Mm-hmm.
millet,
Mm-hmm.
and then we also use a Peruvian sweet potato flour, which is not an ancient grain, but it's a great root flour.
Okay. So tell our audience about your background in gluten-free and natural cooking.
I've always been a natural foodie since probably my mid-teens. Just something clicked in me and I wanted to eat from the earth.
Did you have a mentor?
I didn't. It was just something that that just was inside of me that I was fostering.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere I went, I would seek out that community that ate this way.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to college, the main community was the Grateful Dead shows. And I didn't so much like the music, but I loved the food. And that was my first real community-based experience with all natural foods. Mm-hmm. You know how we have all of our food trucks now? It's a big thing. All the food trucks, on the Food Network TV. Mm-hmm. Well, back at the Grateful Dead shows, everybody had a food van. And out of these vans came the most amazing, wholesome
So it was like a tailgate party?
It was unbelievable.
A healthy tailgate party.
It was great.
Any other mind-expanding experiences?
Not that I could talk about.
Okay. Can you fix your microphone? It
I can.
Slipped down a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, so what age did you start cooking?
So I started cooking at an early age, my mid-teens, probably around 16. My mom was a great baker, and my aunt, who lived next door to us, was an amazing cook. So I grew up with 2 very distinct styles of cooking and baking, and so I've always been doing that.
And so who came up with the idea of those 5 ancient grains to use? Was that yours?
That was my idea. I started developing those 5 ancient grain formulas about 4.5 to 5 years ago. And I did it out of a need to fill a void in my own pantry. My kids were growing up, and although I was feeding them natural and organic foods, I still lacked that ability to take an all-purpose flour and make them the cookies I wanted to make, and the pancakes, and the waffles, and the muffins, and all these amazing baked goods that I wanted them to grow up on.
I'm salivating, and of course, if we can get our camera people to show what's on the table, it would be pretty good. Maybe zoom in.
Yeah.
And so when you say all-purpose flour, this flour can be used for pancakes,
Right.
muffins,
Right. Any
cookies.
application. The only application we don't do is like a sandwich bread, because we're also yeast-free. So
Okay.
our formulas are not meant for sandwich bread. We're more of like a healthy biscuit, if you will.
All right. So tell me what this is.
So for the holidays, I always, every Monday I develop a new recipe featuring one of the 5 ancient grain mixes. And these are 3 of some holiday recipes. The first one over here is a pear buckle. And a buckle is really neat. First of all, pears are in season.
All right. I'm going to try some.
Try it.
Okay.
And everything we do is also dairy-free, although the recipes can also not be dairy-free. You can substitute. We always offer substitutions. But a pear buckle is really cool because you have this nice silky batter, and you layer the pears on top, and as it cooks, the pears sink, and they form a great caramelization on the bottom. And that's with our seeded multigrain. So right there...
This is amazing. I wish you would have brought boxes of your products so the audience could see and know what to look for. This is very, very good.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
so in this dish, you would never know that you're eating teff, amaranth, quinoa, flax meal, chia seeds, and hemp seeds, coconut palm sugar, coconut oil. I mean, it's all in there, but you wouldn't think that. The middle plate here is our cocoa teff mix, which is, this is our Coco Loco coconut cookie. And this sort of brings me back to my days of living on an island in the Caribbean, using a lot of the more exotic islandy flavors.
And it's still made from the same mix?
This is a different mix. So this is our Cocoa Tough mix, the pure buckles from our seeded multigrain mix.
Okay.
And the third thing here is from our cinnamon oatmeal mix, and this is a cranberry apple cake that is so amazing. Kind of like the pure...
Oh, I don't believe you, so I'm just going to have to, here, take a taste.
Try that one again.
Okay. No, I tried the other one before.
Right.
They're different, right?
They are very different. Very different mixes, very different flavor profiles, but again, the great nutrients, a nutrient-dense base. So even though, and one piece is going to be enough. Sometimes when you eat a piece of birthday cake, you crave more because of the simple sugars. This is going to fill you up. The super seeds in here and the super grains in here have so much protein and so many vitamins and nutrients that your body's getting what it needs, so you're not going to crave more after that.
This is, again, outstanding. This is more flavorful than that, but they both are satisfying to my palate. Can't wait till after the show to finish them.
Yeah, and you know what? You could put on some dairy-free ice cream or dairy-free whipped topping and top it off that way.
Okay. So do you notice that your children are any different than their friends who don't eat natural foods, who aren't gluten-free, who aren't dairy-free?
My kids are more aware of what foods they're eating than I think the average kid. And it's basically because they've grown up in my kitchen and I talk about food and I talk about ingredients, and I'm always talking about fueling your tank. And the whole notion of using food as pharmacology and having it energize our bodies. And because my kids are so athletic, this is why I fuel them this way. So I do feel that they're more aware of, if they eat a pizza for lunch, how they feel, versus if they ate something more natural and wholesome. So I'm just trying to make them aware of how they feel after they eat certain foods.
Yeah, I always teach people, I do weight loss counseling. It's real simple. When you eat the right foods in the right portions, you feel good.
Right.
When you eat too much or you eat foods that aren't right for your body at any given time, your body will say, hey, this isn't good for you, and you don't feel well.
That's right. And so sometimes, you know, years and years ago when my husband would walk in the door from hockey practice at 9:30 in the morning, still very early in the morning, and one of the boys would be holding Cheetos in one hand and a Coca-Cola in the other, I would look at him and say, they're yours today, because I know they're not going to behave well and they're not going to feel good and they're going to be, you know, out of sorts. So, you know, they eat junk food, you feel like junk.
So I get it. So when your husband was bringing in unkosher stuff to the house, and the children would eat it, that'd go into their bloodstream and affect their biochemistry.
Oh, you could see it happen.
Their mood, their cognitive function.
Absolutely.
You said that you could see it happen. What do you see?
I see them bouncing like a pinball machine off the walls, and just there's, you know, takes an extra day or two to get them back into their normal routine. Now,
you mentioned that 4 of your children have ADHD, and I know there's...
And my husband.
Oh, okay. I was going to say there's a genetic component.
Yeah.
Neuropsychiatrist Daniel Amen, who I've interviewed with and studied, he would scan 3 generations of brains, the grandparents, the parents, and the grandchildren. You'd see the same problems in all 3 generations.
Right. We've got 4 of the kids with ADHD and my husband, and you can just see the spectrum, because there is a long spectrum of ADHD as there is in autism, and we've got different bits and pieces along the spectrum. When they were younger and they started getting diagnosed, I looked into something called the Feingold diet, which I'm sure you know. It's the Feingold diet basically says that your diet should be based on a gluten-free, casein-free, preservative, additive, chemical-free, dye-free diet. And
it's a free diet.
It's a free diet, right? And so that's what I try to do. But it is so hard to control that 100% of the time. So I don't know anyone that can do it 100% successfully, because when your kids leave the house and they're at a friend's house, you don't have that control.
So do you send your children to school with